Chris, we've observed that the cattle have just been moved, and I'm very interested in making some sense of animal days per hectare here. So we have a mob size of 250 cow-calf units?
Correct, yes. 500 cows, 500 animals in all.
Yes. Okay, and we can see the effect on the land here from just under 24 hours of grazing and impact by these cows and calves. To pull that down into animal days per hectare, we need to use a calculator, and it's quite a simple sum. It's just the number of cow-calf units, or it could be animal units or dry sheep equivalent units. It doesn't really matter, but let's just talk cow-calf units. So we would put 250 cow-calf units for 1 day, approximately 1 day.
Correct, yes.
And over what area have these animals been moving?
About 3 hectares in the last selection.
So we divide that sum by 3, and we get an answer of 83 animal days per hectare that have been given up in feed value for these animals. So to make that come to life, we need to take that 83 number and divide it into 1 hectare.
Right.
And 1 hectare is 10,000 square metres, and we can divide that by 83.
Yeah.
And we get 120.5 square metres per cow-calf unit per day. We can't see 120 square metres, but we can take the square root of that, and we get down to 10.97 or 11 metres by 11 metres.
Yes.
That each cow-calf unit were allocated over 24 hours.
Sure.
And we can see that there's plenty of feed left, and they're very happy.
Absolutely.
So when we think of it like that, it's a great way to say, well, how much feed are we giving these animals on a day-by-day basis and where? So we can do the same sum for where we move to.
Sure.
To bring this concept to life, I think it's important that we step out the square, and then it makes it very clear just what each cow-calf was mathematically allocated over this 24-hour period.
Exactly.
So let's take 11 metres.
Exactly, because it emphasises just how big that square is and whether there's enough forage available for the cow.
Okay.
So I'm dropping the hat. So Paul, there's the square formed by Brian, myself, my hat and the truck. And there's a lot of forage in that.
To get this into a true lowest common denominator, we should drop down to dry sheep equivalents. And Chris, what do you think these cows and their calves that have not going through the weaning process, what do you think the total DSE equivalent for the cow-calf unit is?
Well, each unit would be about 18 DSE, and that would be conservative because some of these weaners weigh over 400 kilos.
Okay, well that's going to make the square size considerably smaller. So let's go with 250 cow-calf units times 18 DSE per cow-calf equals 45 dry sheep equivalents times 1 day divided by 3 hectares equals 15 DSE days per hectare. Now we do the same sum again, 10,000 divided by 1,500, and we come up with 6.6 metres, square metres, and then we take the square root of that and we get down to 2.6 metres. So Chris, let's see what 2.6 metres looks like. We start from here. You go that way, I go this way.
That's right.
1, 2.6.
There we are, and I'll drop my hat because that'll give us the squared. Now there you've got the squared, you see, that's 2.6.
And it's exactly the same thing expressed in sheep units. So it becomes very powerful that we've given enough feed to each DSE, and there's this much behind, and you can see the trampling effect, the distribution of dung and urine. It's all excellent. Just stepped out an animal square where we've had a cow-calf unit grazing, and now we need to take a closer look at the soil surface to see what's really happening, what this tool of grazing and animal impact has created. Christopher, what are your observations?
Well, from where I am, Brian, there appears to be a remarkably even spread of dung. You can't see the urine, but I bet it's there. We've effectively taken 30% of the pasture sward. 30% has been eaten, 30% has been trampled, and roughly 30% has been left. And that has created a huge amount of compost and litter. And Brian, what are your thoughts on the amount of litter that's available and the job that it's going to do in building soil?
Well, this is driving everything. We have that huge underground community and diversity of life in the soil that's totally reliant on what's happening above the soil surface to feed them. So we've got energy transmission, energy flow, powering into the soil through this diversity of plants. We've got the insulation effect from the cold that's coming on very soon. We've already had, 6 frosts, heavy frosts already, freezing conditions. So the ecosystem foundation processes are in very good shape here, thanks to the tool of the animal being applied at your decision ongoing, and we've got an accumulation of litter too beginning to build, which is in fact forming soil.
Absolutely, and if you dig down through the litter and look at the soil which is formed and smell that,
yes,
I mean, it's good enough to eat that stuff.
Oh yes,
it really is. And I think one of the other aspects, while we're looking at this particular area, one of the great success stories for us has been the regeneration and re-establishment of red clover into this pasture. Agronomists will tell you that red clover only lasts about a year in a sown pasture. Well, the last sown pasture on this country was 15 years ago, and yet we have a red clover population which is just enormous. And in a year like this, which has been because we've had a particularly good rainfall sequence, not a huge amount of rain, but it's been strategic. We've had a tremendous growth of forage. So it has been a year for building biological capital.
excellent.